Hey there, welcome to the Sales Journey. I'm your host, Matt Bro, and I am just really pumped to bring you guys my next guest. Mr. Ollie Such, affectionately known as Ollie, from the great land of New Zealand, is going to be speaking with us today really on two topics, and I think two very important topics that is really hitting our society more and more, and it's really kind of going through what is his journey. And those two topics are anxiety and depression. Now, several years ago, I started kind of following Ollie through social media, and the thing that caught my eye then is he left a very secure corporate job, kind of jumped off into the land of entrepreneurism. And, just kind of following that journey along, I noticed him jumping out of airplanes and, working and traveling long distances for causes that he cared about, and doing these things that, from an outsider looking in, seem a bit extreme, if I was to be honest with you. So I reached out to Ollie and wanted to have a conversation just to learn a little bit more about him. And as I talked to him and kind of get below the layers a little, really what stuck out to me is that, Ollie really is waging war on personal change, really focused on improving and developing himself greatly. And through that conversation, he talked about battling anxiety and depression. And so in this episode, we really dig into that, which I think is an important topic for a lot of people. And I really feel like there's a lot of valuable lessons that each of our viewers here can take away. But before we jump into the interview, I just want to say, if you struggle with anxiety and depression, I can't stress enough how important it is that you get the support and the help that you need. So please see a professional for those things. The experiences shared on this episode are really meant to just share those experiences. It's not meant to diagnose or tell you how to do those things. It's very important that you get the help that you need. So with that, if you will, grab you a cup of coffee, grab you a notepad, a pen, lean in and just listen to these experiences and learn from Mr. Ollie. And if you would like, I'm going to put links underneath this video and inside the comments, if you found this on social media, to contact Ollie and just connect with him. I know that he will love connecting with you. So with that, let's go ahead and get on over to the interview. Ladies and gentlemen, I am excited for our next guest. Our next guest, Mr. Ollie Such, also affectionately called Ollie, from the great land of New Zealand, is going to be spending some time with us. And as I stated in the intro, I'm really excited to have a conversation with Ollie today, because it's just, I think he's going through just an interesting season in his journey, in his life. And I think there's a lot of lessons for a lot of us to kind of glean from it. So, Ollie, thank you for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm pumped.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, guys, and Ollie, I appreciate you kind of hanging in there. It's taken us, 3, 4, 6 months, something like that, for us to be able to actually get online in a place where we can kind of both be together and have a great conversation with the audience here. So appreciate the persistence, because that is that took some persistence for us to get together, man.
It's all good. It's important.
Awesome. Absolutely. Very important. So guys, as we talk about here on the sales journey, and I'm a firm believer that, and Oliver is just a salesperson by nature, but just a fantastic human being. I think brings an interesting take on his work and his passions and the way that he thinks about his relationships, and the purpose that he has around his work. And as I
as I've met several different sales professionals and sales leaders, I've seen a lot of people struggle with and deal with the things that, honestly, Ollie has been through, and that Ollie's personally kind of going through. So if you will, for the audience, can you kind of give us, what's been going on with you, man? What's kind of gotten you to where you are right now, just maybe here recently?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting year for me. In one sense, it's been the most exciting year of my life, and in the other sense, it's been easily the most challenging and the hardest. And part of it has been the fact that I've been in a really deep mental funk over the past 3 months or so, with being very open, really suffering from anxiety and depression, which I've had for all my life, as far back as I can remember. And it kind of comes in waves, and just especially for this year, has been really bad. And I'm coming out the other end of it now. But as we're no doubt going to dive into, there have been some really, really awesome learnings from it, which have kind of got me on a new and far more exciting path.
Absolutely, absolutely. So kind of give us, what you're doing from a professional perspective right now. In addition to that, kind of what you're involved in right now. I know it's been evolving quite frequently here, so it's good.
Yeah, it has been. So I'm working on a couple of key things at the moment. I'm working with a very close friend of mine, Nathan, working with him to build a digital marketing agency, one that he's been running now for a few years very successfully.
Awesome.
And then on the other side of that, I'm also building a wholesale importing and distribution business. And that's working with really, really exciting products, like revolutionary stuff, i.e. toilet paper, hand sanitizer,
Absolutely.
paper towels, and
Everybody
that kind of
needs it,
thing.
man.
So
Everybody
there's
needs it.
two kind of key things. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, one of the great things about it is it's recession proof. It
Yes.
doesn't matter how good or bad the market is, you
Right.
need it.
That's it. That's it, guys. So as you can hear, Ollie's in a lot of different things, and he's even into things that is recession bulletproof. So I do want to spend, because as you and I were kind of talking about what we want to discuss here, really your recent kind of bout with anxiety and depression was definitely something we wanted to talk about. So kind of give us, what kind of, and sometimes it's hard for people. And what I want to first say is it's really hard for a lot of males to talk about anxiety and depression. I think that's a bad problem in our society, an unfortunate problem in our society, that mental health and recognizing how to manage those things and honestly treat them, recognize them, and deal with them, it's a gap in our society. So I want to first say, I want to commend you for being able to kind of talk about it here openly, because I think it's a very, very important topic. A lot of us deal with that.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's a lot worse here in New Zealand than almost anywhere in the world. I mean, I believe it's the second highest suicide rate per capita of
Mm,
any country.
mm,
And part of that is because, especially as men, we don't talk about it. There's a phrase or a saying in New Zealand, which is, she'll be right, which is basically like, it's going to be okay. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
mm.
But to give the audience a bit of perspective, or to be able to empathize with me a little bit, ever since I can remember, since being a young teenager, I would wake up with this feeling of impending doom.
Mm.
And I know that sounds kind of melodramatic, but when you get that feeling that something really bad is going to happen, you're really anxious and you have that horrible feeling in your chest and stomach that something really bad is about to happen. I would wake up with that every single day and deal with that as though that was normal. Like, I genuinely just thought that that was how everyone felt. And I just kind of had to muscle through it. And then I learned that that wasn't normal, and then I shouldn't feel that way. But me being me, and being really focused on fixing my own problems, I was like, I don't need anyone. I don't need help from my parents or my friends or girlfriends at the time or anything like that. I can just get it all sorted in my own head. So I
Right.
never spoke to anyone about it, and that just built it up and built it up and built it up, and then it kind of just exploded.
So how long ago did that hit you, and did you kind of see something that triggered it or kind of a pivot point there?
It had been so each year I'd kind of go through waves. I would have times of it being bad and I would have times of it being good. I know those are really subjective words, but
Right.
good and bad, and it would just kind of flow throughout the year. But about midway through this year, like May-ish, I started to get on a bit of a decline, and instead of popping up the other end of it, it just kept getting worse and kept getting worse. And it ended up me in a spot where I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything. When I was feeling really anxious, it was like literally hard to move kind of
Mm,
thing.
mm,
What triggered it? I'm unsure of exactly what triggered this wave because there didn't really seem to be anything to trigger these things as part of these waves. But what became really clear was as I got into my head more and tried to fix it more and solve it myself and be like, how can I battle out of this depression? How can I battle out of this anxiety? It was those questions that started to drive me further into that hole because I
mm.
was so unaccepting of it. I was like, I'm highly motivated, I'm highly driven. I know I'm a good salesperson. I know I'm great in the business world. I shouldn't be feeling like this. And that lack of acceptance for it just drove me into a hole.
Well, so I think it's interesting because logic, right, tells us if you're kind of going down a path that you don't want to go down and you work on it, you should be able to get yourself out. But what I'm hearing from you is the more that you tried to fix it, the more that you tried to maybe even ignore it in some ways, the worse it got. Is that true?
100%. And it was funny because the thing that got me out of it was accepting it.
Mm,
Like just stopping and being like, yep, you are feeling this way and it's all good. Like it's okay.
right.
Uh, and as part of that process, I made the decision to open up about it and talk to the people closest to me about it. To just say, this is how I'm feeling. I'm not okay. Because the challenge was always for me, because I'm a really bubbly, positive, driven person, no one ever thought that I could feel like this. Like I'd kind of alluded to telling a couple of people about it. And I remember them saying to me, they're like, Ollie, there's no way you feel like that. You don't
Wow.
feel like that. You're charismatic and bubbly all the time. They're like, I think you're wrong.
Mm,
And so then I'm like, shit, maybe I am. And so there was this kind of disconnect in my identity where I always had to be on for people. I always had to be positive, always had to be charismatic, especially for work. Yet on the inside, I'm here just like absolutely breaking down. And it's interesting because I think more people than we're aware of feel that way
yeah, they
and
do.
just don't show it.
Well, I mean, you see it even, like highly public individuals, movie stars, those types of things that struggle with anxiety and depression. From a personality perspective, you wouldn't expect that. However, many times I think that's how we judge it, or at least that's the way I know I've been guilty of judging it. For folks that are really close to me that have experienced it, I continue to kind of deal with it continuously. So I guess talk to me. So accept this. There's this component of saying, hey, I truly am feeling this way. It's now opening up and giving that understanding to other people, what did that do for you?
It took a lot of the burden away and allowed me to actually then go and work through all of the things that were going on in my head that were causing the problems.
Mm,
So as part of that process, I went and took the leap to actually go and speak to a psychologist,
mhm.
which is something that I had always shunned in the past. I'm like, that's for whack jobs and crazy people. I don't need a, I don't need a
Right.
psychologist. I can work through this.
Yeah.
But that was one of the best things that I did. And then the other piece, and this ties into one of the things we wanted to discuss, is one of the things that drove me further into the hole was the fact that I was way too comfortable at that
Mm,
stage.
mm,
And I was just too comfortable with everything. I was comfortable with work. I was too comfortable outside of work. There was nothing that was pushing me hard or putting me in uncomfortable mental or physical states that I put myself into. And it's counterintuitive, but by not doing that, I ended up in the worst mental state I'd ever been
mm. So to me, I think there's a couple of things that you just said that kind of speak to me. Number one, I mean, you sought professional help, right? Having an outlet to kind of work through those things. But then there's this component of like being too comfortable. But here's the thing. So I've been following Ollie for quite some time on Instagram. And, like when I first stumbled on Ollie on Instagram, he was this guy that, and I said this during the intro, that literally walked away from his high paying corporate job, like, sought discomfort. Like, this is the way this guy's like wired. If you think about most of us are wired in a way that is like, I'm in a high paying job. I'm staying here. This is safe. This is secure. Like, that's how we are. Like, no, Ollie leaves that, goes and starts his own deal kind of on his own. Additionally, I can't remember what the distance was that you just kind of decided to go and walk. Um, but man, I saw your feet afterwards and I said, oh my gosh, this guy has no problem being discomfortable, because uncomfortable, because I promise you, I would have stopped before my feet looked like that. So how did you get comfortable, man? Because you are a person that really continuously seeks discomfort in many places.
in. It's a slippery slope. So, that walk was 100 kilometers, which is 70 miles, roughly. I think there's 1.6 kilometers in a mile. So 65, 70 miles ish, with no training, on a few weeks' notice, because myself and my best mate were like, let's do something really, really hard that is just going to be mentally and physically horrible. Well, what could we do? Let's walk a really long way. Let's do 100K in 24 hours. It's like, okay, cool. Well, actually, it started as 80 kilometers.
Yeah.
And I spoke to a few friends about it, and they said, 80 kilometers? God, wouldn't it just make more sense to do 100? It's like, I guess we're doing 100.
See, my friends would have been like, you're doing what again? Oh, man. I don't know about all that.
So, so it coming back to the point, it's a slippery and really subtle slope that you often don't pick up on. So at the start of the year, I did some crazy stuff. We walked 100K. I got stuck on the side of a mountain with another big walk that we were doing. I did a fasted 40-kilometer beach walk, which was insanely hard. I jumped out of an airplane when I have an unbelievably crippling fear of heights. So there were a bunch of things to really put myself out of my comfort zone. And then it started to just hit me that I was feeling a little bit off. The anxiety was a bit stronger. The depression was a bit stronger. And so instead of waking up and going, right, it's 4:30 a.m., get yourself into the gym, get into the gym, go hard, do a meditation, do your journaling, do all those things, I'd wake up on a Monday morning and go, can't really be bothered.
Mm.
And so then I wouldn't feel as good that day. I wouldn't be as productive, or all of those things. And then because of that, maybe the next day I'd get up early, maybe I wouldn't. And it would just over time be the cycle where you look back and suddenly it's 2 months later and you've lost all of your routine. You've lost all of the things that you were doing to make yourself a better person and make yourself uncomfortable. And because of that, you're now in a really deep funk. You kind of have passed the tipping point of not being able to get back because the spiral has just gone further downwards and crashed.
Wow. So, if I'm hearing you correctly, right, all these big events that you did that most people would say that's extremely uncomfortable, right? Like, so big walks, jumping out of an airplane when you're scared to death of heights, and several other things, starting a new business, those things that you would think, like, if you kind of picture it, are big, monumentous, uncomfortable situations. That really isn't it. It's your daily habits seeking discomfort in certain areas that got comfortable, and you got comfortable kind of on that kind of slow fade or slow decline, if you will. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep, absolutely. And it's funny because it's one of the biggest learnings I've had, and I've always known it. It can just be really hard to execute on sometimes, which is consistency and discipline are often the most important things. You
Mm.
don't, if you're trying to grow a business or make yourself better or become a better athlete or whatever, you don't have to make massive leaps and bounds every day. You just have to be doing something every single day. Like, this is so cliche as I'm saying it. I'm like, I've heard this everywhere. This, these aren't my words. This is
Right.
everywhere in the personal development community. But we often miss it because consistency and discipline are so hard to do something every single day over the space of days, weeks, months, years, and decades to build something. But it's the only way to do it. You don't have to be super smart. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be highly consistent and disciplined. And that's the hardest thing to do, in my
It
opinion.
it is, man. So like, what do you say? Because I mean, obviously, people need to seek professionals' help, right? But I think everybody's journey is unique in that we learn things as we go down those paths, right? And so, what would you say to the person that, like, maybe something outside of their control? Maybe it's not about comfort that's got them in their place, right? Like, so something external happened, or maybe they lost a job, maybe they lost someone close to them, which is definitely tough. But if I'm thinking about anxiety and depression, there's several things that can get somebody where they're at. Um, Comfort being one of them, right? Kind of that just subtle lack of stretch and challenge in a day-to-day walk can be that for some people. But what do you say to somebody who goes, yeah, that's easy for them to say, you're not dealing with this thing that I didn't even, like, I can't fix that? What would you say to that, man?
It's a really good question. Number one, I would say talk to, and this sounds so obvious, but talk to the people around you about how you're feeling. It can
Mm.
often be such a massive weight off your shoulders. And then number two, it's funny because you go, well, it's easy for him to say he's not dealing with this or with that. The biggest problem that I face is I fundamentally have nothing wrong in my life. Like, I had a really good upbringing. I have great parents. I have amazing friends, and I built those things. But I'm earning money. I have a roof over my shoulders. I have people who love me. I have all the support. So I fundamentally have nothing wrong in my life, and yet I was still feeling anxious and depressed.
Mm.
That can often be more scary than if you know what's causing it. If you've just had a family member who passed away, of course you're going to feel terrible. If your wife or husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever has just left you, of course you're going to feel depressed or down or anxious. that's okay. Like often it's just accepting it and going, yep, okay, cool. I can't affect the fact that my father just died, but I can accept that it's happened. I can open up to the people around me, and then I can just work each day to try and make myself a little bit better.
Right.
The scary thing is for me, the people in your audience who are similar to me in the sense that they have nothing wrong in their lives. They're high paid salespeople or business people who are highly driven, highly motivated, making good money, have a sexy wife or husband, and yet are waking up every day going, holy shit, excuse my French, why do I feel like this? Because there's nothing that's outwardly wrong. That's scary. That's been the scariest thing I know for me as part of this.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, when you're going through an event that is putting you where you are, it's that just daily kind of put the next step in front of the next step, right? Like it's just be okay with where you are, open up and tell people where you are, talk about it, and progress. Don't hunker down and stay there, right? But I would agree with you, man. When you don't know kind of what's putting you in that spot, man, it can definitely be kind of a scary spot to be in. So kind of going back, so you had these kind of big events of discomfort and some things that you're doing just to kind of challenge yourself and get you out there, these crazy things where you tear your feet up and jump out of airplanes. I don't know about all that. There's a lot of things I do. I ain't jumping out of an airplane, especially one that's running. But so why is comfort? Why do you think for you when your discipline or your kind of daily approach to the habits that you have that put you kind of in an uncomfortable spot, or maybe that lack of progressing yourself in some way? Why do you think it has that effect for you?
It's a really good question. What I know for certain is without understanding the why, and we can dig into that, all I know is if I'm feeling comfortable, I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good. I don't feel excited. I genuinely feel down. And I think you'll find most people are the same. Like, when was the last time you sat in front of the TV for 2 weeks in a row and felt really good about yourself at the end of it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then on the flip side, when was the last time that you got up early for 2 weeks in a row, got your ass into the gym, and then achieved something you wanted to achieve each day? When was the last time that you did that and felt bad about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You'd struggle to find anyone who would feel bad after that. For me, personal development is one of my biggest values. Like, I just want to be trying to get a little bit better each day. I hold that very highly to myself because I genuinely believe I have some amazing gifts to give the world. And I'm not on my high horse being egotistical, saying I'm the best at anything. I just genuinely think I have something to offer people and want to be better. And so I know for me, if I'm not becoming better, that just doesn't make me feel anything positive about myself. And so I know that if I wake up one morning and it's 5 o'clock or whatever, and I don't want to get out of bed, I'll have a battle with myself for 5 or 10 minutes. And then the minute that I'm out of bed and I go and run around the block a couple of times, get back home, I'll just sprint around the block because maybe I don't want to go to the gym, but I'll just go for some sprints. I feel amazing. And so the discomfort for me in all areas of my life, whether it's work and putting myself in uncomfortable financial positions and challenging positions in business, or just personally, for me, ultimately leads to comfort. So it's the discomfort that drives me into a better place. And it's the comfort that drives me into uncomfortable places. And I think I genuinely believe that most people feel like that. They just don't understand or believe it yet because comfort is so easy. Comfort is comfortable. It's a lot easier to sit in front of the TV all day and call in sick to work or chill out on the weekends. I'm not saying you shouldn't do those things, but that's a lot easier in the short term than getting your ass up and doing something.
Right.
In the long term, though, I genuinely believe it just ruins you, because I've seen it in myself.
And
So,
it's
funnily enough, coming back to your question,
yeah, go ahead, man.
sorry, coming back to your question around what often triggers the anxiety and depression in like big downward spirals is when I'm feeling really comfortable.
Hmm. And being able to
And
recognize it early probably is the key. The problem
yep,
is
and then doing something with it though,
right.
because here's the thing, you can recognize it, but the horrible thing about comfort is it's comfortable, it's nice. Sleeping in
Mhm.
until 10 a.m. is really nice at the time. Chilling out and watching TV all the time is nice. Eating McDonald's is exciting, and ice cream, it's fun at the time. You can stop and realize that it's taking you into a bad place, but it's another thing to then go and do something about it.
Right. Yeah. I had we live in such a world, and I don't think New Zealand's much different than it here is. It's here in the States is, I mean, that's what everything is marketed towards. Easy, convenient, just in time. Don't get off your couch. We'll bring you your food. We'll bring you your clothes. Like, get it's just crazy how much is drive through, how much is all about convenience, and it's marketed to be such. I mean, clothes, it's all about completely about being comfortable. The car that you drive, it's all about the comfort of the vehicle or whatever the case may be. That the house is marketed as comfort. The shows, distract you and pull you away from work of purpose. And it's easy, man. I can certainly sympathize with that. And I think there's a lot of people that don't even recognize that that's happening to them. So they sit in this place where they're like, why do I feel this
Absolutely.
way? And it's really, they're just distracted from progressing.
That's it. Look, it's crazy. The amount of people, when I told them that my friend Josh and I were doing the 100K walk, or that we were going to do the fasted beach walk, or jumping out of a plane when it scared the hell out of me, or the 75 hard challenge, the amount of people, and I would say most, would say to me, Ollie, why are you doing that? That's not fun.
Mm.
Like, that's not going to make you feel good. Walking 100K and having blistered feet and a ruined body is not going to make you fun. Like, you need to enjoy life and enjoy the fun things in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not here saying that I'm utterly different to everyone and I'm on a pedestal and like, I want to go away on holiday. I want to relax on the weekends and enjoy time with friends. You have to do that stuff. So I'm certainly not saying that. But I think we've been sold this lie that it's all about comfort all the time, to the point where people think I'm crazy for trying to put myself in uncomfortable situations, where what they don't see is that's the thing that makes me feel genuinely happy. Not
Mm-hmm.
always at the time, because at the time, uh, that's the challenge, right? You're uncomfortable.
Right.
If you can find a way to enjoy the discomfort, and I'm slowly working towards that. That's really hard. That's my
It is.
goal, to
Yeah.
genuinely enjoy the mental and physical pain. I'm not there yet. When at the time, I just want to give up every second. Like with the 100K walk, if I didn't have Josh with me, I wouldn't have done it.
Mm.
It was horrible. My feet were just one big blister across both of them. They just continued to pop and
I
continue to
saw
pop
that.
and
I
continue to
saw
pop.
that.
It was excruciating.
Yes.
So bad.
Hmm.
But Josh and I were just like, this is happening. We're just pushing through the pain. This isn't going to stop us. And I've never felt so amazing in my life after
Right.
doing that. Just pure ecstasy.
Yeah. So I love that. I love that you find your happiness in that progress and that stretch and that challenge and that discomfort. And I'm glad you talk about it, because I think right now you're hearing some narratives that say, you've got to seek discomfort, and you kind of got to enjoy the discomfort. And that is for a lot of people, it's like, I don't even know how you can do that. So definitely I want to have you back on later down the road, because I want you to talk about how you've gotten to where you like this thing called discomfort. Now, I know some high achieving folks that truly like love discomfort, and they've talked about kind of how they've gotten to that place. So I'd love to get that from you. One thing I always try to ask guests that come on the podcast is, what are you most grateful for right now and why?
That's a really good question. Above anything else, I know this is a really basic answer and a bit cliche, but genuinely just being alive. Like, if you think about, I think it's Gary Vee who talks about how the chances of you being you and being a human is 1 in 400 trillion. So 400 trillion to 1 is your chance of being human. And there are, and again, let's be really cliche, there are kids starving in Africa and people who have genuine problems in life. Don't have shelter, don't have food, homeless, all those things. I'm just grateful to literally be alive and to have enough money to have food and shelter. And when you stop and you think, and to have all of the people around me still alive, like my girlfriend and my parents and all my good friends, because I know that it only takes one of them to get hit by a bus for it to fall apart.
Right.
And I often remind myself of that every day when I'm having a bad day, things aren't going well, didn't close a deal, got yelled at by, a client. You just stop and think, well, is there anything actually wrong? My parents are alive. My partner's alive. My friends are alive. I'm alive. Can anything really be that bad? So I meditate on that most mornings just to remind myself.
That's awesome, man. Because I think that is, though you feel like it's maybe cliche or like basic, I think it's honestly, it can put us in a right frame of mind, have the right perspective for all the other stuff that happens. And I think Gary Vee talks about like he could have been born as a tree. Like that would have been pretty bad. Like if I remember correctly. Well, very awesome,
Totally.
man. So
and look,
yeah. Go ahead, man.
Just to finish off on that. Lastly, the other thing that I ponder a lot when I drive, I always have my arm out the window. I'll kind of have my see we drive on the left here in New Zealand, so my steering wheel's on the right side of the car, which is a bit weird for you guys in the States. So I have my right arm out the window, and I often stop and I'm like, what would happen if someone sideswiped me and just took my arm off? So suddenly I'm just missing an arm. Now, again, this is one of those things, like this is quite a dark thing to think about, but I have all the limbs on my body. I am not in a wheelchair. I can move. I'm limber. Like, how can you not be grateful for that?
Yeah.
Just small things, things.
And if we could all stay in that spot, man, the world would be a much happier place. I can tell you that much.
100%.
So give us a feel for the future for you, man. Give me a feel for, what's next for you personally, professionally, just so we can keep you accountable the next time we talk to you.
Personally, uncomfortable situations all the time. Number one thing. So I'll give you an example. To continue to tackle this horrendous fear of heights that I have, because it wasn't solved through the skydive. In Queenstown in New Zealand, which some Americans may have heard of, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. There is a bungee jump down there called the Nevis Bungee, which sits in a valley between two massive mountains. You basically have to take a little gondola cable car to a little platform in the middle of these two mountains and jump 134 meters down to a river. So next February, I think we're actually doing it for Valentine's Day, because so what we're going to do, myself and a couple of friends and partner are going to go and do a skydive down there, a bigger skydive, and then on the same day we're going to go and do this bungee jump.
Wow.
So there's that, and for me, the number one thing, I hate getting up early. I really do. It makes me really uncomfortable. And I know some people love the mornings and love getting up early. I don't. And so every morning for me is 4:30 a.m. Get up, get into the gym, because I know for me that starts my day well. No doubt in between all those times there'll be a bunch of other stuff, but for me, I'm already panicking about this bungee jump so much that's probably enough for me for the next little while.
Right.
Professionally speaking, it's just building the digital marketing agency, or Nate's digital marketing agency, and then working on the wholesale distribution business and building that. So it's just staying really laser focused on those things. And like I said, from a personal standpoint, just putting myself in uncomfortable situations all the time, and realizing and remembering that all the stuff that's in my life is 100% on me. Like, I just, when I fell into that horrible state of anxiety and depression, like, that's on me. I have to take accountability and ownership to fix that, and just staying in that mindset.
Right. Absolutely. So it kind of brings me to really my last question, if you will, is, if you got somebody, they've listened to kind of your story and what you've been dealing with, kind of what got you there, some ways that you're working to keep yourself in a really good place. But what is that one or two things that you just really want to drive home, for folks to really kind of take in their journey, if they're feeling, maybe a similar situation as to you, or if they are not, like, how do they avoid that? Because different seasons bring different things. Like, what would be one or two pieces of advice you would give folks just based on your journey so far?
Number one is the thing that we've spoken about for the majority of this conversation, which is seek discomfort. Figure out the things that you don't want to do, and then go and do them. If heights scares you, go and jump out of a plane or do a bungee. If getting up early is uncomfortable for you, do that. If having a conversation with your boss makes you uncomfortable because you're not happy in your job, go and have that conversation. Do things that are going to make you physically and mentally uncomfortable. And for everyone, those things are different, but you'll know what they are.
Yeah.
Just go and do them. Because I promise you, if you do that, you will feel amazing afterwards, and that will lead you to more comfort. And then the key thing from there is to just continue to seek that discomfort. Learn from my mistake, which was get really uncomfortable, which led me to a bit of comfort. And then I stopped.
Yeah.
I wasn't consistent with that discomfort. And that led me into a hole. You've just got to do it day in, day out, every single day. That's number one. And then number two, the thing that massively changed my life when I was about 20 was I realized that everything in my life was my fault and my responsibility, and I had to own it. So if you think, if we make this specific to the majority of your audience, which is in the States, if you think that Donald Trump has any say over your life and is going to be able to benefit you or hurt you, if you think that the government is going to benefit you or hurt you, if you think your mum or your dad or anything around you is the reason that you are unhappy or not succeeding or any one of negative things, you've got to try and change that mindset and realize that it's all on you. You're exactly where you deserve and need to be. And the number one thing for you is the minute that you take everything in your life into your control and to accountability to yourself, you start to get really happy because you realize that no one has any say over you and how you feel and what your thoughts are and what you're doing. That for me was a massive thing.
And it's so hard to do, I mean, seeking discomfort, like you can make some choices, you can set a plan in place, but like accepting and owning everything. I mean, the bad stuff. I think you use an example when you and I were talking. If I get hit by a bus and it's my fault, I was there that day at that time. I didn't look left and right enough. Like I did something that put me in that position to get there. And I would say the people that I've met that have had extreme ownership in their thought process and kind of baked into their mentality, they have a much different view of happiness than people that kind of feel like it happens to them.
100%. I think it's another lie that we've been sold. The first one is that we should seek comfort. What we need to do is seek discomfort. And then the number two thing is, or the lie that we've been sold is that blaming others somehow will make us feel okay. But the thing that leads to happiness is just taking ultimate control of everything in your life. It doesn't feel like it at the time. You go, oh, my boss fired me. Well, that's because my boss was an asshole, and our service delivery team wasn't good enough, and this wasn't good enough, and this didn't work. The minute that you stop and go, no, you got fired because of you. It doesn't feel particularly good at the time because you've got to look at yourself and review yourself and figure out why you failed. But that ultimately over time leads to happiness and comfort, because you realize that you're ultimately in control of everything.
Right. Yeah. It makes it to where, I can do something about it. I can learn from it and get better and better and better and potentially avoid it in the future. Very awesome, man. So could you just kind of real quick here, tell the audience, so, they've heard your story a little bit here. And if you want to get connected with Ollie, stay connected with him kind of continuously. We're going to have him back on here in the future just to kind of talk about what he's learned as he continues to go down this thing we call life. But if you want to connect directly with Ollie, how do they get in touch with you, man?
So you can connect with me on Facebook, okay. Ollie Such, SUCH. Instagram, my handle is Ollie_Such. Otherwise, feel free to flick me an email. I have a multitude of different emails. The easiest one for you guys would probably be ollie.such@enablertraining.com. And that's enabler, ENABLR. Feel free to reach out. I would more than happily take time to speak to anyone who wants to ask me any more questions or share their story or just chat. I'm so open to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that, Ollie. I will make sure to put links to your social media and your email down in the description. So if anybody wants to reach out and just connect with a man, have conversations, I'm a big fan of, and really the whole reason why I'm doing this podcast is it's there's a lot of podcasts out there that are talking about sales techniques, talking about skills, talking about different aspects of business. But there's really not a lot of conversations talking about lessons learned in the middle of the journey. The lessons learned conversations are always the multi-trillionaires, flying around in their private jets and Lambos and bikinis on the beach. And not to say that Ollie, you're going to be there one day, because I'm going to pull this video out of the archives and be like, see, this is where he was and this is where he is. And I think that is a powerful thing because everybody talks about it retrospect versus kind of, hey, I'm in the middle of this.
100%. The only thing is, I don't think anybody wants to see me in a bikini.
Yeah, no. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that, man.
But well, yeah, guys, look, seriously, if anyone wants to reach out, I would love to talk to you guys. Love this stuff.
Awesome, man. Well, Ollie, again, thank you so much, especially for talking about a topic that I think is so very important, especially for men out there. And for you ladies, I know that this is an important topic also, because I think a ton of this all applies because we're all humans, regardless of men, women, any of those different things that, quite honestly, we see and we observe as differentiators. We're all humans that are kind of faced with the same thing. So, Ollie, I appreciate you coming on and kind of talking through your truth, man. So, guys, this is our episode of the sales journey. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a great one.